Hello, I'm Kenny Anderson, host of Impact. I'm Director of Multicultural Affairs for the City of Huntsville. And it's my pleasure from one week to the next to bring you information about things that are happening in our city. There are some tremendous resources in our community and some great people doing great things. And we have an opportunity each time that we air this broadcast to be able to introduce you to some of those people that are doing just that. Today, I want to introduce you to someone that I think some of you may know, but for those that don't know him, you will after the broadcast, will know why we wanted to talk with him, especially today. Tony McGinnis is Executive Director of the Harris Home for Children, an agency in this community that we're going to hear a lot more about in just a few moments. But I want to first of all say welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
And, we're being real formal here, but Tony's my boy. So
yeah. Exactly. We can relax a little bit, huh?
Yeah, right. We can just kind of relax just a little bit. So, but just great to have you, man, for
Thanks
sure.
for having me.
And sitting next to Tony is Carla Clafin. She is a mentor and board member of the Harris Home for Children. It's a privilege to have you on the broadcast today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, you guys, first of all, came to the broadcast with lots of smiles. So there must be some really good things happening with Harris Home. But I think we always want to start with the beginning because some people may not know what Harris Home for Children is. So let's first of all let them know what Harris Home for Children is.
Well, Harris Home is a nonprofit here in Huntsville that was started back in 1954 by Chessie Harris. It was one of those organizations that was created out of a need. She saw that children in the city didn't have a place to go and call home. So what she did was she started opening her doors to children, and at the time it was African American children, into her home and providing them that safe haven, that place that they can call home. And over the years we've grown. We don't only see African American children, we see all children from all different races and all backgrounds throughout the state of Alabama. Not just city of Huntsville anymore.
And who are these children who come to you specifically for your services?
These children are children who've been abused, neglected, abandoned. Most of the time people think that they've come to us because they've done something wrong. These are children who just need a place to call home. And the unfortunate thing for some of the children who come to us, they feel as if their family situation, there was nothing wrong, but the state saw necessary to take those children out of their home and provide a safe place for them until their family situation can get a little bit better.
Right, and so you've already cleared up one of the misperceptions about what the Harris Home is. It's not this place for runaways or the delinquent child that nobody can seem to do anything with. These are simply kids who need a home, who need to be loved, who need discipline, who need guidance and direction like most of us do. And Carol, of course, you are not just a board member. I love this. You're also a mentor, volunteer mentor. And that has to be very interesting, I'm sure, for a lot of reasons. Tell me what drew you to the opportunity to be a part of this process, first as a mentor. We'll get to the board part a little later.
I'm not a Huntsville native. So I was one of those people who didn't know anything about the Harris Home for Children. I found it somewhat by accident, helping a friend do a community project for the kids, to do an art project. Once I experienced it and met the kids and met the staff, I was hooked. I couldn't get enough, and as well, my husband and my daughter as well. And so they just sort of adopted us and we adopted them. Wow. And we've just been there ever since. So, but meeting the kids and seeing them work through this community art project that we were doing really helped me get to know them quickly, get to know their best side, to see what they're capable of, to see what kind of passions they have. And it was later that I was informed about what their situation was, what kinds of things they had faced, and what their needs also are. And so out of that need base, then I was drawn to becoming a board member and helping be a part of what the organization does, not just in one-on-one contact with the kids, but also from a more administrative level.
Well, see, Carla, you've hit on a couple of things that I think are very important. You first of all talked about engagement. And one of the first principles of being a good mentor is you have to be engaged. You can't just stand on the sidelines and, think that you know everything that somebody needs. The second part of that is you're building relationships. You're getting to know the kids. Before you start bringing solutions to them, you have to really get involved in their lives. And of course, Tony, you are, and I'll say this, you don't have to say it, you're a legend in this community. You are a product of the Huntsville Housing Authority's low-income houses in Huntsville, public housing. But you broke out of that community as a student athlete, and I should say also an athlete who graduated from college and then came back and started working for the Boys and Girls Club as director there. You've been involved with young people for a long period of time. And I have to ask you this question because, you know, if I had to start a panel of experts in this community who are going to be able to tell me about how to work with young people, you'd be one of the three to four people that I'd start this panel with, because you have a rich history of not just leading in the community, an organization, or running a business or an organization, but actually working in the trenches with these young people. What have you learned from working with these young people about what they really need?
Well, I've learned that with a little support from somebody, children will go on and do great things. For me, it was my parents and the mentors I had at the Boys and Girls Club. But I found that children just want to be, they just want to have an opportunity to succeed. They want to have some people that believe in them. And I think that's the one ingredient that I would suggest we start to accept, is that children want somebody to believe in them. And to the point that they will hold that child accountable and not just leave them, you know, out in left field somewhere, but to hold them accountable for what they believe in, and not creating the vision for them, but encouraging them to create their own vision and try to nurture that vision, however that may be. So I just think that children need people who can believe in them and hold them accountable for whatever they want to do in life.
So I'm going to play the devil's advocate for just a moment. You mean kids really want to succeed in life? You mean kids really don't want to fail in school? You think kids really don't want to have to go through timeout and being suspended and getting in trouble on the street and using drugs and getting pregnant? You mean kids don't want to do that kind of stuff?
Not only do kids or children not want to do that, but I think that their parents don't want them to have to live that lifestyle as well. A lot of times people think, I mean, I'm from, you know, inner city public housing, that the children who come from those environments, they don't have dreams and aspirations and goals, and that the parents just want them to be second, third generation of individuals living in public housing. But children have dreams and goals, and sometimes the communities get the best of those children and they die. Les Brown said this, at 20 and have their funerals at 65 and 70.
Wow, wow. Just living their lives like shells, never experiencing the realities of their life. And Carol, never being exposed to enough of what you are excited about sharing with kids, and that's an opportunity. That's a vision of hope, helping them understand that what they believe in, they can achieve. And this is a very important dynamic of the process.
It really is. And I'm thinking about some of our specific residents who we can't say by name, but just their specific dreams. Some of them are very, very tangible and very much within reach from where someone like you and I sit, like becoming a welder or studying electrical engineering. But when your life has been so transient and you've been moved around from place to place, there are so many obstacles. And it's just so reassuring for those kids to have someone to listen, to ask, what do you want to do? What do you think about anything, really? And to have the opportunity to express what they think, how they feel, and then what they would like to do with their lives, and then participate in what you can do to help remove the obstacle. And even if it's not something really specific on that day and in that moment, just engaging in that process builds something up in them, and you can see them begin to respond to it.
So part of our job as adults and leaders and guardians and parents and teachers and other people in the community that want to help, our job is to help inspire in young people a sense of themselves, to understand what their potential is, to be able to hone their strengths and to reduce their weaknesses and to help build them up in some meaningful way. And then as they do that, continue to walk alongside them, holding them accountable for what they say they want to be or what they want to do, and making sure that they have the resources available to do that. And we think about resources oftentimes in terms of what things can I give kids. But resources transcend things, material things. Resources often have to do with nothing related to this thing that I give. It may have to deal with something like the amount of time I invest in that person, the positive words of encouragement that I share with that person, the opportunities to see something other than what they normally experience in life. And this is all a part of what I'm sure you're engaged in terms of the work you do in the community through Harris Home.
I mean, you know, when you think about what we do and the impact that we're going to have 10, 20 years from now, it's very important. I look at where some children are right now who don't have a place like Harris Home, who are in those backgrounds or in those family situations where it's strictly survival. At least when they come to Harris Home, they can have a plan for success, and they know that there are people surrounding them who don't just do this for a paycheck. They do it because they love children, and they want these children who come through our doors to succeed. So it's a very fulfilling position to be in. I don't go to work thinking, man, I have a job, but I go to work thinking that I'm going to impact somebody's life, even if it's just through an encouraging word or just a pat on the back, to do something to let them know that, hey, I see you. I understand that I might not know all of your background, but I do see you, and I want what's best. I can remember when I first started at the Harris Home, there was a young lady who was in my office who was just angry, upset, didn't know why she was that way. And as she was getting ready to leave, she was just angry. And I told her that I loved her. And she just looked at me like I was crazy. And she's like, you don't even know me. I said, I know enough about you to tell you I love you and I care about you and I want you to succeed and to do great things. That child left Harris Home with a sense of pride and compassion for people. And it was just a conversation we had that turned it around for her. And she was a troubled child while she was there, but those last couple of weeks, she was changed and her whole demeanor was changed because, you know, I don't necessarily say it was all because I told her I love her, but I'm sure that had something to do with it. Yeah. And that's what children want. They want to know that people genuinely care about them and they want their well-being.
Yeah, it's amazing to me to see sometimes how we as adults, we condemn kids, we classify them or put them in categories. We end up ultimately, I think, limiting their ability to become what I think that they have the potential to become by our lack of belief in them and our inability to see past the things that we see on the surface. But yet everybody has a backstory, and everybody who we face has had something in their experience and their lives that have created the person that they are. And sometimes there are huge deficiencies in those areas. And we're busy putting up patchwork jobs when the relationship requires major surgery. And the reality is that major surgery requires a commitment on our parts to say, I'm not going to abandon you. I believe in your success, and I'm going to do everything possible to make your success possible. And sometimes kids need to hear that. Now, we're in the business, of course, of expecting overnight results, but it takes an investment of time. And Carol, I'm sure you recognize that in the work that you do both as a mentor and as a board member. This is a long-term commitment to young people's success. Am I right?
It is a long-term commitment, and that plays out in a few ways. One of those ways is that with people, with children whose lives have been shuffled around or who have lived in a survival state, they need someone to be steady, okay? And they do need someone to see past whatever the surface layers of that are. And sometimes the surface layers are pretty thick, even though they're on the surface. And to say, I know that there's something of value about you, and I want to find out what that is. And so these surface level behaviors, they're not going to distract me or run me off. I'm not going to try to correct them right away. I'm just going to pay attention to you. I'm going to engage you. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to give you an opportunity to express yourself. When I learn about you, then I'll have the opportunity to say, hey, if you have this idea or you have this goal, here's something we can do. And that's not an overnight process. And the kids will hold you accountable just as much as you want to hold them accountable. I like when I'm at this place with some of our residents where they say, you know, well, where were you last week? And I appreciate that because it means they feel comfortable enough to ask.
Wow.
And that they feel safe enough to challenge without being confrontational. And that is an important place for them to be. That's maybe some place they've never been in their lives before where they can feel that comfortable with an adult. So it's also a long-term process with the board, developing the board, meeting the way that laws are changed, the way that our economy is changing, the way that the shape of who our resident population is changing, to make sure that we are supporting the staff and doing what the agency needs to be sustainable, and not just to be sustainable, but to grow. There are kids who come through our crisis intervention program, and you just see that there's something there, or you see them come out of the state of trauma where they almost can't interact with anyone because it was a crisis. They were rescued from an emergency, to this relaxing place where they can start to get to know people. And it's just great to have a vision long-term of what, as we grow, we can continue to provide someone at that juncture point.
Yeah.
So that's exciting work. And that keeps me motivated for all the down and dirty work that grown-ups have to do.
I always say it's got to be something incredibly rewarding about working with young people and helping guide and direct the course of their lives. You mentioned something earlier that really resonated in my mind because many years ago I worked with the NOVA program, which I don't even know if it still exists at Davis Hills Middle School, but I had received a call one day from Dr. Ted Clay, who was the counselor at that time at Davis Hills. And Dr. Clay said, we've got this situation over here with these kids that we're classifying as at risk, which is, another conversation. But we need somebody to come and talk. We need a male figure. And I said, well, I was working as a mental health professional at the time. And I said, well, okay. He said, they're mainly African-American. And I said, okay. And he was speaking to my heart. And I felt like I needed to make a difference because I was beginning to have some success in my own life beyond college. And so I decided to go to Davis Hills to meet with the guys, and I suggested we do it around lunch, kind of a neutral period of time where everybody has to eat and we can just have some tabletop conversation. And I could see the dance between us trying to develop some trust, figure one another out, and what's his angle? That's what they're looking at me on, and is he really going to be consistent with this? Is he just going to come in and out of our lives and that kind of thing? And I remember having built up a wonderful relationship with these guys over the first 4 or 5 months. I actually ended up doing it for a whole year. And I remember I missed one day and thought that it was going to be okay with them because I was freeing them for one day. They wouldn't have to go through the same routine that we've been going through week after week after week. And when I came back the next week, those guys held me accountable. They said, not only did you not show up, but you didn't call. You didn't to let us know. You called the school, but you didn't call to let us know. And I mean, that thing stuck with me like something had never stuck with me before. These kids, they're paying attention. They're sensitive to what's going on. They understand what's going on, and they can articulate what they feel about situations. So we should not take young people for granted, which we tend to do a lot of times. Tony, I know that you're real excited, and I'm sure you are too, Carol, and the board. The community, just recently, you guys dedicated a brand new activity center. I had, I don't know if it was the privilege, but let me say I had the opportunity to see it before it was renovated. And so I can certainly appreciate from whence you've come with that activity center and the residence hall as well. You've made some really, really progressive kinds of things happen over the last few months. Talk about how exciting that is and what the future of Harris Home is.
The reason it's exciting for me, I always want to leave a place better than it was when I started. So that's just a physical way for me to do that. But when you look at an activity center, when you look at an opportunity for me to put 2 basketball goals in a building and share with children a gift that was given to me with them, it's a way to knock down all kind of walls. I see it as not only an activity center, but an opportunity to get that guy who is quiet and reserved, an opportunity to get out there one-on-one with me and to really let their hair down and to challenge me in a positive way and to share my gifts with them in a way that is real. So it's more than an activity center. It's a place that, first of all, the children can call their own. It's a way that we can tear down some walls and really get to the heart of some issues. But then also it's a place where they can have some ownership without having to go out into the city. The city has been gracious to allow our children to come and use facilities all around the city, but this is a place in their own backyard that they can call home. When they're having a bad day, they can go and just kind of blow off some steam. When they just want to relax, they can go and have a real nice atmosphere to do that. Oftentimes, people just want to put children in a place and think that they should be grateful that they got a place. I wanted to create a space that was nice, that they could be proud of, that they can appreciate. And so we were able to do that with the activity center and with the residence hall. The residence hall at first had old carpet. It was a very nice building, but I don't think it was as personal as it is now. The children really love being in that place. And once again, it's a place that they can call home. It's a place that they can be proud of. And not only that, they'll take care of it because they know that we're making that investment into providing them a place that is nice. So they'll be more willing to take care of it.
I love what you say about just the whole notion of considering what kids need as opposed to just doing something for them. You know, we do that a lot of times. Well, you know, we did such and such or they got so and so and we think it's okay, but we sometimes underestimate the real value of those kids, recognizing that part of their value is what they think about what's going on around them. And that's so important. My long history of working in the city of Huntsville dates back to when I first got out of Oakwood and I got a job at this organization called the Harris Home for Children. And I was a weekend house parent. One of my earliest experiences in mental health counseling in the profession in terms of just being in an environment where I could impact young people and interact with them and try to make a difference. And I learned a lot in the time that I was there. I started in the summer, and it was a very busy time of year, a lot of activities going on. And I learned a lot. I remember Jake was working up there at that time too. He was a weekday house parent. And he was the anchor. So he was my go-to guy whenever I needed to know something. Jake would be able to tell me. And I just had a great experience and recognized even then when I think Barbara Lloyd was the director, just looking around and recognizing the potential of young people and the opportunity that we have to create something in their lives when we really take that time and interest in them. And I know you do that as a board member and also on behalf of the board. Carol, I know that you have a great investment in this process. And I'm sure you guys spent a lot of time talking about the future of Harris Home and the legacy of George and Chessie Harris, which is a solid, strong legacy in this community and in this state.
It is. It's an inspiring legacy. that one woman or two people can start something and make a difference that's lasting to 60 years and beyond, because we've just reached our 60th year of service. This is our celebration year. It's very exciting, and that's inspiring. And you know, Miss Harris did that at a time when I don't think society was probably giving women in her position much value either.
Great point.
And yet she found a way to do something great, great that's impacting this city for decades. So that is also motivating and inspirational. When I'm struggling and thinking like sometimes these board decisions don't seem connected to anything, and you know, how is this connecting to the children? I know, you know, as a grown-up, we know that they do and they're important, and it helps me to either reconnect with the kids, so that's why I'm there, or reconnect with her story, because that's how this all started, and that's what we're working to continue. So it's exciting.
Yeah. I know that the future of Harris Home is great, and I know that it's in great hands with Tony being executive director, a strong board. Carol, you're part of that board of diverse individuals around this community that stay in touch and stay engaged with one another. As we begin to wind down our discussion this afternoon, I'm sure that there are ways that people can get in touch with you. I know you just started your Brick by Brick campaign, and you definitely want people to know how they can provide support for the Harris Home. They may want to volunteer, they may want to make a donation, they may just want to come by and see the facility and assess how they might be able to be a part of this process. They may want to become a volunteer mentor. I mean, there are lots of ways that people can get involved. Tell us how people would contact you, if you've got a website, Facebook page, and other kind, phone number, other kind of ways that people can get in touch with you.
Well, I'll say this in addition to that. The reason why we have a capital campaign, a brick by brick campaign, is because of funding cuts. Our agency has experienced a tremendous amount of cuts over the last 3 years. We've gone from having an opportunity to serve children at a rate of $67 per day per child, now to a rate of $11 per day per child.
Wow.
And we're being asked to do the same thing that we were doing. So there's a definite need for funding. Carol is actually the capital campaign chair.
Oh.
She's been with this organization for a short period of time, but when you have somebody as strong as she is, who really cares, she came in as a volunteer with no hidden agenda, but when you have somebody that is passionate about children and their success, we know that we've got our capital campaign in good hands. So that's the reason for the campaign. I'll let her share how we can contact.
That's great. And we've got about 1 minute, so if you can just tell us how to get in contact with you.
We do have a website. It's harrishomeforchildren.org. We have a Facebook page as well. We have a Twitter feed. But the website is a great way. Brick by brick. Small dollar donations to big dollar donations, small amounts of time to big amounts of time. More than ever, we're going to have to live out Chessie Harris's statement, together we can, because we're going to have to do it together, because we're not getting the government funding we used to receive. So we have beautiful facilities, but now we need to work to keep those facilities open and thriving and growing. We want to continue growing in what we do to serve the children of Alabama.
Okay. And what's that website one more time?
It is www.harrishomeforchildren.org. Did I get that right? Yes.
Yeah, good job.
We're on 1210 Church Street. Drop in anytime to the front office.
And I think that'd be great for people to do. Just kind of come by and see what's going on, how this agency is providing a valuable service in our community, and get to meet some of the people that are involved in that process and kind of figure out what you want to do, because there's something for everybody to do. And even if you can't help, maybe you know somebody who can. So that's the other part of the process as well. Tony McGinnis, Executive Director of the Harris Home for Children, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be in your presence.
That's my boy once again, so we can talk. We've relaxed now. It's 29 minutes ago. Carol Clafin, she is a board member and also a volunteer mentor for the organization. We thank you for being here today also.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right. We want to thank you for being a part of our broadcast today, and we hope that you'll join us for our next edition of Impact with Kenny Anderson. In the meantime, I hope that you have a great day.